Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics. Dio here. Today I'm going to show you how to remove and replace a press-on bearing on this steering knuckle. This steering knuckle is out of a 2011 Toyota Camry, but the procedures we're going to do here are pretty much the same on any type of press-on wheel bearing. The first thing we're going to do is removing the bearing snap ring. There is a snap ring here that we have to remove. So I'm gonna use these snap ring pliers here. Alright, so here comes the snap ring. Okay, so here's the snap ring removed. Now I'm gonna wipe it down and set it aside because we're gonna reuse it. Alright, so I don't know if I mentioned this already. We are replacing this bearing because it's defective. Although it kind of looks good, but it's really making noise. Now the next step is gonna be we're pressing out the hub flange, okay, or the steering knuckle flange. So this flange here is gonna be what we're gonna press next. So we're gonna do that using this adapter here. So we're gonna use an adapter, and one of the adapters we will use in this socket. We're gonna put a socket right in here on the flange, okay, and then we're gonna press this flange out. I don't have a specific adapter for this type of hub yet, but I'm just gonna use a tire and a hammer to tap this knuckle flange out. Alright, so I'm gonna put a socket right there and tap the axle flange out. There, with one tap, the flange just came out. Here is the flange. I actually got new steering knuckle flanges, so I'm gonna replace this. If you don't have a new flange, what you have to do is you have to cut this inner bearing race out or find a way to remove it so you can reuse this steering knuckle flange. But I'm not reusing this hub flange because I have new ones, so I'm gonna replace this, right? So now that we got this removed, the next step is gonna be pressing the bearing out. This bearing actually comes out from this side because this side is where the snap ring was. So we're gonna take it to the press now and flip it over so we can press it from this side, from the side where the flange was, the knuckle flange was. We're gonna press this side down so that the bearing can come up. So now let's take this whole assembly to the press and press the rest of the bearing out. I'm gonna use one of these adapters here to press the bearing. Now I'm gonna use this other adapter. So when pressing these bearings out, you have to make sure that your adapters you're using are straight, are completely lined up with your barrel jack on the press. Now I'm gonna start pressing this down. So now I am ready to press the bearing up. And as you're doing this, I don't know, you guys probably can't see my face, but while you're doing this, you have to make sure you wear eye protection because these bearings are ball bearings, and these ball bearings, these balls can fly sometimes. I can actually hear it coming out. I'm gonna put my hand under here so I can catch it. So here comes our wheel bearing. It was kind of tilted, but who cares? We're gonna replace this anyways. Alright, so the bearing is out. As you guys can see, here's our steering knuckle. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sit this steering knuckle flat here so we can press the new bearing in. Here is the new bearing. Here's the new bearing, guys. So I'm gonna press this one in. And the thing is, if you look at this bearing, it's got ratings on one end. So this inner race of the bearings got ratings on it, and then the other one doesn't have anything. So the side with the ratings will go down, because that's how the other one was installed. So I'm gonna install the same exact way. I don't think it makes any difference, but just a side note there. So I'm gonna grease the bearing journal or the bearing bore first, and now I'm gonna sit our new bearing. I'm actually gonna use another bearings outer race to push this one, and I'm gonna use this adapter here. So with the whole bearing, what we are doing is we are pushing it from the outside. Okay, so this is the bearing right here. We're gonna push it from the outer race. Okay, so we're pushing it from out here. You don't want to push it from the inside because you can damage the balls inside the bearing. That's why I'm using this. This is another old bearing that I have here, another old cage. So I'm gonna sit it there. Bearing is lined up. Now I'm gonna use this adapter, and I'm gonna just move it over a little bit. Alright, so I got the bearing centered and the adapters lined up. So now I'm gonna press the new bearing in. And guys, the secret to this is making sure that everything is straight up. Because you don't want to make sure, you want to make sure that the bearing is not going in crookedly or anything like that. So the bearing is going in nice and straight. Alright, so now it's requiring enough force to push the bearing. So I believe our bearing is set now. So I'm gonna release the pressure on this barrel jack. And remove these adapters. And here is our bearing installed. Okay? Hopefully you guys can see. So here is our bearing installed. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install our snap ring now next. So here's the snap ring. I'm gonna install the snap ring now. So the snap ring has been installed. Now what's next, guys? Next step is installing this new steering knuckle or hub flange. See how nice and shiny it is? So this is what we're gonna install next. So this is gonna go in this way, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna sit this on the press, and then this is gonna come up so we can press the bearing into the knuckle flange. So what I'm gonna do is I can't leave it sitting this way, because if I do, these studs will get pushed up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this socket here as an adapter. Alright, so I got everything lined up. So there is our hub, and I am actually pressing on the inner wrist of the bearing, which is gonna eventually push the whole hub on the hub flange. So you have to be spinning the hub as you do that. That avoids any binding on the balls inside the bearing. Alright, as you can see, our hub is spinning nicely and happily. And right now I'm feeling resistance on the barrel jack. So now I'm going to release the pressure. You start to feel resistance. So when you start to feel some resistance on your press, it's either your bearing is sitting or your bearing is not lined up properly. So if you feel any resistance, you have to make sure you check that everything is lined up. Alright guys, so here is the new bearing installed, and here is the new hub flange, and as you can see, this is a new and smooth bearing. So this is how you replace a pressed on hub bearing using a press. So I hope you like this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. But if you do, you gotta tell me why, okay? So if you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. And while you're down there, don't forget to ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. And if this is your first time here, consider subscribing for more car repair videos. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.